Thank you very much, and can I say what a pleasure it is to be here with you all this morning. Minister Jakob, thank you very much for the invitation. It is a warm invitation, and it's great to be here with you and with the other distinguished ministers from ASEAN and around the world. Can I congratulate Singapore for everything that they're doing in the cyberspace. You are leading regionally and you are leading internationally, and it is great to be here with you. Could you also pass on to the Deputy Prime Minister my thanks for his invitation as well. What I'd like to talk to you today about is what we're doing in Australia domestically when it comes to cybersecurity, what we're doing regionally, and as importantly, what we are doing internationally. In 2014, the Australian Prime Minister Turnbull, launched our latest Australian cyber security strategy. And it was a very important document because it was the first strategy that had been released in Australia that had real money behind it, $230 million. It also set out an agenda over 4 years as to what we wanted to do as a nation to capitalise on the opportunities that would come from cybersecurity, but also to make sure that we had the policies in place to deal with the threats. One of the things that the cybersecurity strategy did was to decide to set up an Australian cybersecurity centre outside of the place where it was housed at that time, which was within one of our intelligence agencies. Now, we made this decision for a very important reason. We knew that as a government, we could not face the cyber challenge on our own. We would need industry, both large and small, to meet the domestic cybersecurity challenge in Australia, as well as government, and we would need to do that collaboratively. So that is why we are now establishing, and in the process of establishing, a standalone Australian Cybersecurity Centre, which will work cooperatively between government and industry and also academia. The other thing that we did was we decided that we needed not only to have an Australian Cybersecurity Centre based in Canberra, in our national capital, but we would need joint cybersecurity centres set up across Australia. We have already set up the first of these in Brisbane, which has a specific focus on certain aspects of our economy. And we are about to open a new joint cybersecurity centre in Melbourne. This will be followed by one in Sydney, and then we will look to open them in Perth and Adelaide. Once again, this is about ensuring that industry can work in partnership with government in facing the cyber threat. We have also started building on what we need to do to make up for the cyber human resource gap, which has already been spoken about by previous speakers. We have engaged with our universities. So far we have 2 universities which are part of our cyber centres of excellence. This is to enhance the skills that we will be able to bring to the cyber challenge. We are also looking at what we will do within our polytechnics, how we can make sure that we can get cyber skills through that lower level of degree, so that for our smaller businesses in particular, they will be able to utilise the human resources that we need to face the cyber challenge. And right now, we are looking at what we need to do with our schools, because as we all know, the younger that we can encourage people to get the knowledge that they need, whether it be in science, whether it be in technology, whether it be in mathematics, the better equipped we will be going forward to be able to do this. We also announced in 2014 that we would be making cyber a key component of our defence white paper. and we put $400 million towards our cyber capability when it came to our defence forces. And we made another key announcement as part of that process. For the first time, we acknowledged as a government that we had an offensive cyber capability. And this is something that we have continued to acknowledge, and the Prime Minister has been very transparent about, because we see that also as an important step in informing the Australian people of the importance of cyber, but also of our preparedness to have to deal with the threat. The other important component of our cybersecurity strategy is the international engagement strategy. And this important pillar will come to fruition in a couple of weeks, when our Foreign Minister will launch our international engagement strategy. Now, because it's been launched in a couple of weeks, I won't use this moment to go into detail, otherwise the Foreign Minister will get very upset with me. But if you wait a couple of weeks, you will see that we are really focusing on our international engagement strategy. We are also focused on doing work regionally. And I thank the Singaporeans again for hosting us today, and also for the way that they are working with the Australian government bilaterally. We have signed an MOU with Singapore on cyber, and already we are enhancing, for instance, how we can threat share between our two nations when there are cyber incidents. And this MOU is something that we want to build on going forward. With our good friends from Indonesia, we are also developing our bilateral relationship when it comes to cyber. We have a security forum between Australia and Indonesia, and thanks to Dr. Wiranto, cyber is now firmly on the agenda as part of that bilateral security engagement. And Dr. Wiranto will be travelling to Australia, and we were there last year to talk more cyber and to see how we can enhance our cooperation. With our good friends in New Zealand, we are also working collaboratively together. Last year, we held our first joint cyber exercise together. And it was an incredibly important learning exercise when we held that exercise, because a lot of our economies, through our closer economic relationship between Australia and New Zealand, a lot of our sectors are closely joined. So being able to conduct a joint cyber exercise meant that both countries could learn from each other, and in particular learn how you would deal with an incident in terms of both governments being able to go out and jointly notify their people about what was happening, so that one country didn't learn before another country about the impact that an incident was having on their nation. So it was once again an incredibly important step, and something that we look forward to doing with other countries in the region as well. Lastly, I'd like to touch on what we are doing internationally. To start with, one of the first things we want to do is engage with the ASEAN region to ensure that the norms that have been agreed in 2015, those very important 11 norms that were agreed through the UN process, that we can look to see how we are going to implement them. Establishing 11 norms, incredibly important, but the norms by themselves standing there and not being implemented will not lead us to where we need to get when it comes to ensuring that the region and the globe is cyber secure. So we want to continue to work with ASEAN on those 11 norms and how we should implement them. And can I thank Malaysia and can I thank Indonesia, because they worked with Australia as part of that UN process as the regional representatives in how we developed those 11 norms. And that work between Indonesia and Malaysia with Australia through that UN process was incredibly important. And we want to make sure that we continue that partnership going forward. And I know that the Australian Prime Minister, when he welcomes all the ASEAN leaders next year to Australia, we'll be looking forward to having a discussion around cyber, and in particular about how we're going implementing those 11 norms. And that is something that Australia is looking forward to hosting. It will actually be incredibly historical for Australia to welcome all the ASEAN leaders to our nation, and we stand ready, willing and engaged in the lead up to that, to working with our ASEAN partners on that. Can I say in conclusion, I really have enjoyed my time here in Singapore over the last couple of days. The conference has been incredibly successful. From Anne, the distinguished Finnish minister who spoke to us last night, spoke incredibly insightfully about where digital transformation is going. Her portfolio responsibilities of transport and communications gives her an incredible insight into where development is going in transport, autonomous vehicles, autonomous ships, autonomous aeroplanes. The way that she gave us a narrative about where the digital economy is going in the transport sector was incredibly insightful. As a matter of fact, for a lot of us, the thought of going on a driverless plane, I think, might have gave us a little bit of a nervous sleep last night. But that is the challenge. That is where the digital economy is going. That's where digital transformation is going. Yesterday, we had the benefit of wonderful bilateral meetings where we were able to exchange views, build on friendships and enhance our cooperation. And then obviously this morning to hear from the Deputy Prime Minister about what Singapore is doing was once again incredibly insightful for all of us. So can I thank the Singaporean government again for inviting us here today. I look forward, as a representative of the Australian government, to building on the partnership with all the ASEAN countries who are here in the room and their partners, and hopefully I look forward to be back here next year again. Thank you very much.